Shalom, Ahab, Wa, Baraka. First and foremost, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Waharakadash. And double honors to all the prophets, the elders, the apostles, and the disciples that are giving out the sincere 100% truth. We got a lot of people out there saying they're bringing out the truth, but there's no light in them. A lot of people out there that are legends in their own minds, but they have no light in them. They're drunk, but not from wine, because the Most High has put a deep sleep upon them, and they think they're awake. You might as well just go join the I'm woke Nike tour. How you gonna be woke and still belong to a major corporation? But anyway, today's class is called The Original Color of the Israelites According to the Bible. So, first thing we're going to do is go to the book of Exodus, and we're going to start at chapter 4, and we're just going to read verses 6. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thy bosom, and he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. So right away, when we get into this class, we know right away that his hand wasn't leprous as snow, and now it is. So it went from being one color to being ultra white. Let's get a precept on leprous being ultra white. Let's see if that happens again in the Bible anywhere. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 5. And we're going to go to verse 27. So, I'm going to give you a little backstory. So, this is Elisha was Elijah's servant, and then when Elijah went, he gave Elisha, or however you want to say his name, gave him a double portion of his spirit, was what he asked for. But Gehazi was Elisha's servant, and Gehazi took a profit of money, a financial increase for Elisha doing a miracle. And so Elisha asked for a wedge of silver and 2 garments, and Nahum actually said, take 2 wedges of silver in the garment. So he said, thank you. He went on his way. But let me just start. And so the point is that he broke a very important rule according to Scripture. But let's just skip to verse 27, because I want to show you what the consequence was of that, because we're sticking to color in the Bible. But I just wanted to let you know what was going on and why he was receiving this consequence. Verse 27. The leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee, so he's talking to Gehazi. And this is Elisha telling Gehazi that the leprosy that was on Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper, as white as snow. So once again, he was one shade, and then he became leprous, white as snow. Let's jump around a little bit. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah. Whoops, that's over here. This one's falling apart too, guys. So, go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14. And we're going to go ahead and start at verse 2. Jeremiah 14:2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground. The cry for the cry, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. So Judah mourneth, they're mourning. The gates thereof languish. To languish means to to not produce any vegetation, to be feeble, to lose strength. So when you say the gates thereof languish, you're saying that the gates have lost their strength, they're feeble, they're not producing any more fruit. They are black unto the ground. Now that word actually means ashy, dark skin. And it's funny because when you see an Orthodox so-called Jew that's Orthodox from Israel, the Caucasian ones, an Orthodox Jew will wear black from head to toe, trying to fulfill this prophecy of being black unto the ground. But the problem is it's talking about your skin, and it also means to mourn. So the gates have lost strength, they're feeble, they produce no more fruit. The gates are destroyed, and they're mourning. Also, they're black. And you got to know that these people are black because their leadership is being destroyed, and the next people to take over are not going to look like this. Let's move on. Let's go to the book of Lamentations. I'm losing friends over this word. Bringing out this truth makes you lose people in your life. Let's go to Lamentation 4:8. And their visage is blacker than a coal. You know what? Let's start at verse 7, because it says a lot. Her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were more whiter than milk. So what it's saying right there, purer than snow, whiter than milk. It's saying that the word white in this context means righteous, holy, set apart. We're talking about Nazarites that have to do a vow to even become a Nazarite. So yes, they are more righteous and pure. They're as pure as snow and whiter than milk. They are righteous, holy, and very set apart, is what it's really telling you. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire. Okay, but hold on. Now let's reverse 8. Their visage is blacker than a coal. Their visage. So the word visage is the face or countenance or the look of a person, chiefly applied to humans. In other words, mainly when you say visage, how a person looks. Oh, how did he look? His visage. Oh, he was this, that, and the third. It's explaining and describing what you look like. Their visage, explaining what they look like, was blacker than coal. So when you look at them, they were black as night. But they were pure and heart, which in other words, their mind wasn't corrupted by false doctrine. Let's move on. Let's just keep going. This is going to be a quick class, I can already tell. Matthew chapter 2 and verse 13. That's where we're going to go next. So Matthew chapter 2 and verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring the word. For Herod, the tetrarch, will seek the young child to destroy him. So what did they do? When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. Now, I was looking up the word Egypt because I was always saying that the word Egypt means bondage. It is a Greek word, but I was absolutely wrong about that. It's related to bondage, but the word Egypt, I looked it up, it actually means black. But black means destitute of light. And a few other things. So, just saying. But the funny thing about Egypt at this time, it's just a funny coincidence. But anyway, when they fled into Egypt, the ruler at that time was Gavius Tyrannus. He was Greek. Roman. He was a Roman. Gavius Tyrannus. So look him up. That was the actual ruler of Egypt at that time. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to a concert or to a carnival or to any place, or even just like a street fair or a farmer's market where there's just a bunch of people going up and down the road. And if you were to turn away while your people that you're with were still moving, if you were to stop and look around for a minute and they kept walking, and you look back up, you're going to have a hard time finding them. I mean, I've lost my whole family when I was a little kid just daydreaming. And I look up and I can't see my parents. I don't know where anybody's at. So when I see them going into Egypt, knowing that it's under a Roman rulership, I realize that there must be all kinds of different people out there, not just one kind of person out there, because you would stand out a lot more. Oh yeah, go right over there. But to have a diverse crowd, it makes it more understandable, I guess, in my own mind. Maybe I'm going off, but I mean, the ruler's literally a Roman. And if you were to go into the Apocrypha, which is 500 years before Yahushua, there was 9 Cleopatras, there was Alexander the Greek, there was all kinds of stuff that happened in between then and this time. In fact, let's just move on because we're going to stay with the color of the Israelites. Now, that doesn't take away what Yahushua looked like. It just said he fled into a place where it was like it'd be like, where's Waldo? All different colors and shapes and sizes. It's hard to find somebody that way, believe it or not. Let me keep going though. We're not going to dig into that too deep right there. We're going to go somewhere else. Because we're going to, like I said, this is a class about the original skin color of the Israelites. And the reason why I'm bringing this class out is because I was, scrolling through a class to take, and I ran across an IUIC class, which I don't listen to them, but they pop up on my feed every now and then. And honestly, no Israelite should be able to mess up the color doctrine. You just shouldn't be. You should know this one by heart. But they were having a dialect with a group of Catholics that were walking around with a poster of Caesar Borgia. And so that's when it got into the whole color thing. But I realized there's a lot of scriptures. They only brought out one scripture about color. And I just couldn't figure out why couldn't they bring out all of this other stuff. I mean, so I decided I'd bring out a class and just base it on just the skin color. So we're jumping around showing you the skin color of the Israelites today, and that's why. But anyway, back to it. Job 30 and 30. Hold on now. Let me get this other Bible because this is the King James Version, but this living, what is it called? The Living Bible. Here we go. The Living Bible, it says paraphrased. That means that they're going to skip verses and kind of try and jumble it all together in one statement. But, and in fact, in the book of Job, it gives a perfect example of that. So, and also it gives a really good breakdown of Job 30 and 30. So I want you guys to hear what this book says. Let's just get over there though. All right, Job chapter. This book's like brand new. Nobody going up in there. But anyway, let's look. So right here, I want to just show you. It's circled. So verses 28 and 29 must be paraphrased because it doesn't read the same as it does in the King James Version. It looks like there could be one verse missing from right there. So now they removed words, but they've added words. But anyway, Let's listen to what it says, though. Listen to what this says. We're going to start at Job. We're going to start at verse... we're going to start at verse, right where it's circled, 28, 29. Watch this. I am black, but not from sunburn. I stand up and cry to the assembly for help. Now watch. Now here's the hijack. This is where they lie. Watch, listen to this lie, because I'm going to show you in the King James right now. But I might as well save my breath, for I am considered a brother to jackals and a companion to ostriches. My skin is black and peeling. My bones burn with fever. The voice of joy and gladness is turned to mourning. So, the only part about that I really like is that that he's actually saying that we're black and it's not from a sunburn. That's good. But let's go back into the real Bible and read it the way it's supposed to be read. But I do like the way that it just tells you that we are black. Now, let's start at verse 27 and read through, because it has 28 and 29 here, so we can actually see what they're trying to say. My bowels boiled and rested not. The days of affliction prevented me. So in other words, he was in a lot of pain. He was unable to rest. Verse 28. I went mourning without the sun. I stood up and cried in the congregation. 29. I am a brother to dragons and a companion to owls. Why did this one say ostriches? Well, let me explain. An owl is considered an unclean animal in the scripture. And if you guys know anything about the elites that are outside of the scriptures, they actually use an owl as one of their symbols. Verse 30. My skin is black upon me and my bones are burned with heat. So his skin is black, but his bones are burned with heat. That's why I like using this book, because it closes off all of those side thoughts that people get. I am black, but not from sunburn. I like that, but that's the only thing I like. Everything else seems wrong in that book. But if they're going to break down one, there's a few things in this book that are actually broke down really good, just to shut up the masses that are always insinuating that it could be something else. Oh, well, that's your interpretation. So when I read this in verse 30, my skin is black upon me and my bones are burned with heat. They're going to say, oh, because he was so black from a sunburn. And they say that. So they're causing that little tiny bit of doubt. But then you go into the book that they wrote, this one, the rewrite, and it says, my skin is black, but not from sunburn. So now it kills all of that insinuating there's a doubt and that I'm just making stuff up. I'm not. Let's keep going. Let's go to the book of Acts. I'm going to show you guys a really cool coincidence in the book of Acts. In chapter, we're going to start at chapter 11 and go to verse 26, I think. Chapter 11 and 26. And when he had found him, he had brought him into Antioch, and it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Okay, they were called Christians, cool. But this is my part that I like, that's such a big coincidence to me, because in that same year that they were getting called Christian, now this is Acts 13 and 1. Oh, we better go to Acts 13 and 1 in the Living Bible too, because we want to find out if they're going to say something good for us again. You think that this Bible will break it down better than the King James? Let's find out. Acts 13:1 in the King James. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that were called Niger. So I had somebody say, that's Niger. That's talking about the people that live by the Niger River. They're Nigerians. In other words, African, not an Israelite. And I was just like, well, that's not true. That says nigger. And if you look up the word Niger, it is a derivative of the word Nigger, and it's the way it originally was started. But wait, let's go to the book of Acts chapter 13:1. Among the prophets and teachers of the church at Antioch were Barnabas and Simeon, also called the black man. So right there, also called the black man. So that takes away all of the, Nigerian. No, these were the Israelites. And then, yes, they have dark skin. Even with the guy saying Nigerian, trying to say we weren't Israelites, it's still showing dark skin. But I just thought it was very interesting in Acts chapter 11 and 26, they were calling us Christian, but at the same time, in that same year, they were also calling us nigger. Let's move on. John chapter 14. So we're going to the book of St. John. And we're going to go to chapter 14, and we're going to start at verse 9. Yahushua said unto him, have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me? Philip, he that has seen me has seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, shew us the Father? So, that's right, let's see what the Father looks like. Since if we've seen him, we've seen the Father. Well, first of all, where does it first describe what Yahushua looks like? Let's go to the book of Daniel. We're going to start at, we're going to go to chapter, there you are. You're right there. Book of Daniel, chapter 10, verse 6. So Daniel 10 and 6. His body was like the barrel. A barrel is like he was stocky. He was big. Reminds me of if anybody knew who Kimbo Slice was, that's what it makes me think of. How that guy was big, but he wasn't fat. He was strong. And his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as a lamp of fire. And his arms and his feet were like the color of polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. So he had a very strong, loud voice. It said he had red eyes, and then he had polished brass skin. But the thing is, polished brass of antiquity would be about the same color as this slave ship right here, or this shofar right here on this part. It's a very dark color, like a penny. Pennies are really dark. That's what brass of antiquity. Now, these days they have special methods to refine brass to make it more pale than gold. That's not what it's talking about, because they weren't doing that back then. And you can see the difference between today and back then, because they have antique brass. So anyway, moving on. Let's get a precept proving that he had red eyes, that his voice was of a multitude, and that his skin was polished brass. And then we're gonna stop after that. We're gonna go right into that, and then we're gonna let it go, because I think you guys can understand what the color of the original Israelites were after. If you don't understand it after this little short breakdown, then you just aren't gonna ever get it. But when you go to the book of Revelation, and you start at, we're gonna read verses 1, 2, and 3, because we need that structure, so we know what's going on around here. We need to build that little foundation right now, so you guys can understand what's actually happening. The revelation of Yahushua, and then Christ HaMashiach. Mashiach means Savior. So, the revelation of Yahushua, which God gave unto him to show unto his servant things which must shortly come to pass, and he sent and signified it by his angels unto his servants, his servant John. So what is he going to do? He's going to show him things that must shortly come to pass. So now he's going to show him something. Verse 2. Who bear record of the word of Yahweh and of the testimony of Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach, and of all things that we saw. So he said, bear record. Write down what you are seeing. So let's just skip past all of the bull and get right to the nitty-gritty. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to his foot, just like in Daniel, girded about the paps with the golden girdle, just like in Daniel. Here's the 7 candlesticks right here. They've already burnt out. Let's keep going. Verse 14. His head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow. Well, when you have gray, there it is. White as snow. But wool, look up. Just put woolly hair in your phone right now. And if a bunch of people with giant afros, much better than mine, don't show up, then I don't know what's going on. So now we know he has an afro. We know that he's strong and he's wearing the same garment as they were talking about in Daniel 10 and 6. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes was a flame of fire. There we go with that flame of fire again. We're getting close to, it seems like we're talking about the same guy. The flame of fire, his eyes are red because when you get really angry about stuff, your eyes turn red, believe it or not. You got blood rushing to your head, and when people get hot and they start sweating, well, your eyes actually turn red too. So Yahushua was pretty angry at what he was seeing going on in his earth. But to each his own. Other people like to say, oh, it's because you drink wine. You'd have to drink a lot of wine. You'd have to be walking around with a bottle in your hand for your eyes to be red from wine. Just saying. But his head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were a flame of fire. Verse 15. And his feet were like unto fine brass, if they had burned in a furnace. This is what burnt brass looks like. This is what burnt brass looks like. This is what burnt brass looks like. So it starts off like this, but when you polish the crap out of it, it looks like this. But only the antiquity burnt brass. Like I said, today they have refined brass. That's different. They refine it to the point where it looks like pale gold. That's not what we're talking about here. So we know that his skin was very dark. We know that he had an afro. We know that he was built strong. I mean, we're describing the basic black man right now. Black skin, afro, and strong. That is Judah. So, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, if you didn't get anything out of this message that the Israelites are black, then you probably shouldn't be watching my channel. Shalom.